welcome to another Writer's Showcase, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Lord Captain Commander Dunn. Please allow me to welcome my guests, starting with Wasia.
Yo, what's up, everyone? How's it going today?
Good. Alrighty, please welcome No Commando next.
Hello! I'm back again! This time I hope you fucks enjoy my fucking story. It's like, oh no, the characters are too bland. I specifically wrote this with this in mind. And I am upset because I did not include my action scene quota. But I did include a more than made up for it with my fan service quota. So, that's pretty good.
Well, off to a great start.
What are you, Kevin Feige or Bob Iger?
I think.
No, I am not Bob Iger. Fuck no. Bob Iger has Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy have their fucking diversity quotas, and they ruined Indiana Jones by having this like fucking asshole of a character who's like, oh, I'm British and I'm going to be like an asshole and treat Indiana Jones like shit by stealing from him and laughing when his friends die, and then I'm gonna punch him and drag him to the present against his will. Oh, yes, because fuck him. He's 80 years old. Actually, he's 7 years old in the continuity of the movie, because Indiana Jones was born in 1899. So in 1969, he'd be 70 years old.
Okay.
I know this because I've seen a few episodes of the Young Indiana Jones series. So I'm an Indiana Jones nerd.
They also put action scene quota in stuff like Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's why I say that.
I did not know that.
Even though most of the action in Falcon and Winter Soldier is trash.
Yes, but my action is good.
Okay. Well, this...
And, let's bring in Valerian. Aloha.
Afternoon. God help us, afternoon.
Good evening.
Well, this is going to be interesting. So, any time constraints I need to be aware of?
No, not particularly.
Well, I'm eating lunch now, of course. I just started.
All right, so we'll just do a clockwise then.
Okay. Let's see.
Wasn't there someone else who was going to be on? I'm sorry.
What was it?
Mr. Yuri thought that he had signed up for today, but he signed up for Wednesday.
I'm gonna unsign up for Wednesday because this actually today works better for me because
that's fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, because I even though I probably will most likely be home Wednesday on the writer showcase thing. Where is it? Okay. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I just took my name off, but yeah, no, today works better for me because I have work Wednesday.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Wasia, you're up.
All right. Well, I thought I would give a recap today. However, I have elected to just go ahead and go with a cold open. So today's chapter is chapter 20. So we are a few chapters into the second act already.
Oh dear God.
Huh?
Oh, it's just gonna be. I'm gonna be confused as fuck. That's all.
Okay. So this is chapter 20. The fire is gone. A scarlet droplet is splattered against the asphalt, drying under the sun's heat. Rosa stood there, battered, bruised, and sweating. Her black leather jacket was discarded, and her black jeans were ripped. But she raised her fists, even in the face of the towering pallid cretin. She jolted, trying to shield her face to no avail. Rosa stumbled, nearly falling over as the thug's fist connected with her cheek. "You dumb bitch!" he shouted, throwing an undercut right after. Rosa gritted her teeth, feeling his fist sink in. She staggered back, right against the wall of the wide alleyway. "When are you gonna learn your place?" he said, bashing her against the wall. The thug grabbed her and threw her into the metal dumpster. Rosa raised her arms, guarding her head as she came crashing into it, and slid down onto the floor. The world looked fuzzy and blurred. The sounds becoming muffled. Rosa blinked, making out the shapes of two subdued thugs and a woman in a torn purple dress. Maria. She was muffled, restrained by a pale wretch dressed in a gaudy attire. Maria's eyes streamed pristine rivers down her face as she helplessly looked on with shock and horror. But Rosa's gaze narrowed on the woman behind her, her face and form overlapping with Irene's, almost like a mirror of her. Rosa snarled, struggling back to her feet until her attacker kicked her back down and leered over her. She heard a metallic flick and felt a sharp, frigid object pressed against her abdomen. "Listen here, you bitch." Rosa glared at him, seeing Lynn's face flicker in and out. "You've been causing some trouble for me and my girl here." Rosa's eyes tensed, her breath heavy and uneasy as the savage slicked his hair back. "Thankfully for you, I'm feeling mighty generous today. Hell, I might even overlook all this if you, the man smirked, skidding the knife below her navel. "Paid us off?" He laughed while Rosa gagged, feeling something warm crawl up her throat. "Come on, you know you are never gonna win. You are made for fighting." His eyes wandered down from her face. "But I could think of something else you could have done." Rosa spat her blood into his face, shutting him up and forcing him to look away. "Go fuck yourself, gringo." The man snarled, slashing the blade across her abdomen. Rosa grimaced and groaned, immediately placing a hand over the wound and hearing Maria's muffled wail. "Maybe I wasn't being clear," the man warned, his voice and face distorted, swapping between his own and the hunter's. "Next time you interfere with our business, you'll be walking away a few pounds lighter." He licked his lips, then sneered at her, hovering the blade over her heart. "Or maybe you just won't walk straight for a week. We all know you like that." Rosa felt her pulse spiked and growled. She sat upright, giving the man a deathly glare. "I'll do you one better. End your business with my sister, or you'll never walk again. Comprende, cabron?" The cretin cocked an eyebrow. He grinned, cheek to cheek, before bursting out into laughter. Rosa clenched her hands, and her eyes twitched. The world slowly tinted red. She saw the harpy's face twisted into a grin, tugging Maria back as she laughed derisively, her voice sharp and grating. "Sure thing, little Miss Spicy Tits. Maybe, will that be before or after the dance?" Rosa snarled, her blood boiling. The man got up, tucking his knife away. "Come on, Amelia. Let her go. We're done here." Amelia threw the beaten Maria to the ground, landing in the puddle. The thug turned his back on Rosa and started walking away with his wrench. Rosa lunged from the ground and started to sprint, only stopped by a sudden force. Maria's embrace. "Rosa, don't let me go!" she roared. "I can't let them win. Not after. It's nothing." Rosa froze, hearing her sister weeping. "Please, I can't see you hurt anymore. Just stay out." Rosa winced, her eyes tensed. But nothing," Maria snapped. "Nothing is worse than seeing you like this. Nothing." A tear slipped between Lucia's eyelids. She sniffed and rolled onto her back, blankly staring at the ceiling of the dark cab unit. She closed her hand and pulled the scratchy bedsheet over herself. Her bed felt oddly cold and vaguely sticky. But it didn't faze her. The dreams, the images, they kept playing in her head, resonating off the walls of her mind. That was me, wasn't it? That was my life before all of this? Before they stuffed me in the pod? She sat upright, the sheets slipping off her when she did. She shivered, feeling the rub of the cool air against her bronze skin. She wrapped her arms across herself, and her eyes traced back to the nightstand beside her, seeing her pink metallic necklace resting there. Lucia frowned, her eyes watering as she reflected on the dream, the fury, the rage, and all just so she could be kicked to the ground and thrown to the trash despite her best efforts. Even then, I was as useless as always. She reached for her necklace and picked it up. Why did I bother? Why didn't I know better? She stared at the heart-shaped locket, seeing the decorative curves across it, almost like flames. It was a mere trinket now, a trinket from the woman she no longer was, the one she buried herself. A flicker caught her eye. The screen from the monitor had turned on, displaying a message to her. Lucia got out of bed, walked up to it, and read it to herself. My first deployment, huh? In 45 minutes? She blinked, her gaze wandering to her hands. Lucia clenched them into fists, her brows drawing together. She sucked in her lower lip, feeling her breath become long and uneasy. I'm gonna have to use them again, aren't I? She winced, recalling the writhing form of Linen, his pain and screams. She saw the pain she'd caused Oliver with a mere touch, and the fear in Tara's eyes when she lost control. Lucia's eyes tensed, a tear slipping from them. Relax, Liz. You're just using it on some pests, right? They're not gonna make you kill people. She paused and felt the hairs on her neck stick up, recalling how the hunters and guards referred to her and why she was flagged in the first place. Lucia shivered, the biting cold of the room rushing against her. Wait, have I ever done this when I wanted to? When was the last time I even used them? Lucia swallowed, hovering one open palm over the other. She straightened out, subjecting herself to the cool breeze. Well, all the more reason to do this. She sealed her eyes, reaching back into her mind. Okay, just need to piss myself off. How hard can that be? Lucia sealed her eyes, inviting the mockery of her memories. Trust me, you would have enjoyed it, just like them. Lucia's brows pulled together, seeing Linen's smug look. Kinda hard to miss him, you know. Besides, gotta enjoy them while they last. Her hands began to tense, her heart racing faster. Oh, little Shari here thinks she's hot shit. You think I'm scared of you? Lucia's pupils shrunk, her body heating up, and her mind engulfed. Then she smiled, watching the pink inferno form between her hands. There we go. Still got She winced and curled up. She's not qualified to be here, and all of us know it. Lucia shuddered, seeing her fallen teammates. If that was any other candidate, anyone else, they'd be kicked by now. Lucia's eyes began to water, the flames flickering between her hands. What's with the look, Shari? The hairs on her neck stuck up, a horrid stinging cut across her chest. Are you still in denial, or did you finally accept what you are? Lucia felt her heart race within her ribs, panting with panic. Then she froze, hearing her own voice join the choir. Then kick me out. Throw me in the gutter where I belong. I just want out. Lucia stood there, her respiration long and uneven. She trembled and shivered, noticing then that the fire had vanished, and that it's been gone. No, she tensed her hands she tensed her hands and sealed her eyes, trying to reinvigorate the flames herself. Come on. She saw the faint glow in her hands, a glow that quickly diminished and vanished. Please, God, no. It's all I have. It's all I have left. Lucia focused, visualizing it, desperately trying to reignite her heart. But no matter how hard she strained, the spark wasn't there. The fire was gone, and she had snuffed it out. I'll go in and stop over there.
Rosa is fucking hot.
Uh-huh.
Dude, she's so badass. When she fucking spat blood at the fucking bad guy, she's like, fuck you. Oh, man. She's more badass and scary than Mia Washington. Dear God, I would not. I would not want to piss her off. She'd probably kick my ass.
She's holding more senses than one.
Oh, yeah. She literally is. Her body temperature is twice that of a normal human. Well, it used to be twice that of a normal human. This is about a 3,000 word long chapter. I have stopped about halfway through it.
Also, did somebody, I think, Ryu from Street Fighter called me Lloyd Kaufman earlier.
No, anyway, the reason why I'm stopping over here is just to gauge if any of you guys would be interested in me continuing. Because this is a bit of a long one.
I'm gonna be honest, as soon as Rosa, was out of the scene, I just lost interest.
She never left the scene.
Oh, shit, did she? I was not.
Okay, we swapped from one scene to the other.
I don't know. As soon as we focused on Lucia or whatever, I just lost interest because Rosa's the only character I care about because she's badass and everyone else is just boring.
Well, this is where it gets confusing. Yeah, this is where it gets confusing if you haven't followed the story. Yeah, it's the same person.
Yeah, there's a reason why I have her saying, that was me. That was my life before all of this.
So anyway, she used to not be a badass tomboy?
No, she always was. It's just that her current state is, well, you saw that.
She's more of a, she used to be a whiny badass tomboy. Now she's a tough, mean, scary badass tomboy? I'm confused.
And she's flammable.
Well, she isn't flammable.
Well,
anyway, the reason why I stopped over here is, again, this is about 3,000 words long. We're about halfway through it. Would anybody be interested in me finishing it?
I'd say I'd say carrying on for a bit is fine.
You can read her a little bit longer. I'm fine with that.
I mean, there's only two of us who are actually presenting. I think.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'll go and just continue then.
Well, it's 4 really, since Valerian is going to do it. He just needs to eat first.
Oh, okay, I see.
All right. Well, carry on. Valerian. Okay.
Oh. Sorry.
Lucia wept and moped, staring at the space between her hands where the once vibrant, beautiful pink flames had burned. She was left to shiver and freeze in the dark chamber, a hollowness forming within. Then she heard a knock, jolted and nearly screamed. Her gaze darted to the door, and she answered it. On the other side stood a woman with a complexion like vanilla, sapphire eyes, and jet black hair. She kept her chin up, her arms folded across, and her thin eyebrows brought together in a stern scowl. She wore a close-fitting teal suit with sky blue streaks running down it, which did little to hide her slender and well-built shape. Her voice was gritty, rugged as her form, and laced with contempt. "So, you're the new lit?" Lucia's heavy eyes peered into hers. "You mean new girl, right?" The Dominic sighed, rubbing her forehead with her fingers. "Yeah, you're definitely it." Lucia frowned, her shoulders slacking as the Dominics fixed her posture. "Name's Sapphire, but you'll call me Sergeant or Ma'am. Got it?" Lucia nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Sapphire placed her hands on her hips. "Good. First order of business. You've been assigned to my team. Prithvi's asked me to deliver your new gear. You have about 10 minutes to get it on before we ship out." Lucia reached down, picked up the plastic box. Sorry. She reached down, picked up the plastic box, and handed it to Lucia. The pink-haired phoenix examined the box, studying it. "We'll be waiting for you outside." "Yes, ma'am." Sapphire nodded, her eyes darting away from Lucia's for a moment. "One more thing. Don't go around drawing more attention to yourself than you already have, especially for someone with your build." Lucia glanced at herself and frowned, her eyes watering. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am." Lucia reached for the box and slid the door shut. She took a seat, hanging her head as her empty eyes stared at the crate. Then, with a deep breath, she bent over and cracked it open, a pungent, oily scent rushing out to meet her nose. Her nostrils flared as she pulled out the new environmental suit and put it on. Then she looked back into the box and noticed a bronze-colored, spiked whip curled inside. She picked it up, pulled the trigger to retract it into a sword, and stowed it behind herself. Finally, Lucia trudged out of the hex hab and into daylight, where Sapphire awaited her. Ready, the Dominix's eyes darted up and down Lucia's form before nudging her head. "Follow me." Lucia nodded, staying a few steps behind the Dominix. Her gaze wandered around the interior of the base. Its walls were lined with the hexagonal prisms called hex habs, with gun emplacements strewn about the walkways above. A road ran the length of the base, a collection of armored transports waiting there and facing the great pair of gates. "We'll be going ahead of that convoy there," Sapphire pointed out, getting Lucia's attention. "We're going to clear out some Lemurs who've been pestering the path to our base in the Alps, Bitterstone. We're not expecting any Daughter's resistance. Should be a simple cleanup op." Lucia nodded along, walking down the gray concrete of the courtyard. She spotted some guards jogging by, some with pieces of armor missing, anything from pouches to even helmets. She squinted, spotting an open hangar with the skeleton of what looked like a mech, some crates scattered about the base, and loading servos that appeared to be in disrepair. "Shit, how bad is it here?" she scoffed, and then looked ahead. Then Lucia froze, her pulse spiked, and the hairs on her neck stuck up. It was them. A cadre of hunters strode forward in a block of black armored plates. Her eyes widened, fixating on them as the hunter with a cracked mask stared back. Then she jolted, feeling a nudge to her arm. "Don't fucking stare at them, you blitzhead!" Sapphire snapped under her breath. "Do you want them to suspect you?" Lucia's face paled, and she shook her head, watching Sapphire's eyes twitch and glisten. Her lower lip quivered, as did her voice. "Then keep your head down and just let them do their thing." Lucia recomposed herself and nodded as they reached a truck at the front of the convoy, where a pair of guards stood waiting. One of the two men was armed, while the other seemed absorbed in whatever he was reading off his tablet. Lucia saw the armed man tap his comrade's arm. The tablet-carrying guard cocked an eyebrow, looked at them, and then smiled. Hey, Sapphire! How's it going?" Sapphire smiled back, placing her hands on her hips. "It's going good, Mitch. Just collected the final member of my team, this Whipper here." Mitchell raised an eyebrow, looking at Lucia. "A Whipper, eh?" he muttered, examining her and chuckling. "Damn, Matri never pulls her punches with making one of these, eh? Gotta be the finest looking nixes around." Sapphire crossed her arms, glaring at him. The guardsman noticed and smiled nervously. "Hey, Sapphy, don't take it that way. I'm just, Sapphire's gaze sharpened, and the man's face reddened. Finally, he sighed. "Yeah, okay. My bad. Besides, I'm not saying that I'm, interested in them. I mean, look at this one. It's all depressed and sad, and the other one we got the other days turned out to be a psycho murderer." Lucia blinked, her head lifting her head to look him in the eyes. "Other one? Wait, what did the other one do?" Mitchell froze, his cheeks still flushed red. Then the guard beside him sighed and stepped in, addressing Lucia with a deep and rugged voice. "We got a rogue Dominix the other day. The captain was performing a routine inspection on it when it killed him." Lucia's brows knitted together. "What happened to it?" "Well, unfortunately, it escaped. But we've already sent a team of hunters after it. It won't be long until they neutralize it." Can I know what it looks like?" Sapphire raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't you want to know?" Lucia blinked, looking back at her teammate. I just think it'll be useful just in case we encounter it on the field." "Sapphire," the guard interjected, staring down the blue-eyed Dominix. With a sigh, she unfolded her arms and backed off. The guard returned his attention to Lucia and carried on. "Yes, it had a frail physique, prominent feminine features, a facial structure similar to yours, with violet eyes, lighter skin compared to you, and black hair." Lucia nodded, painting the image in her head. Then her eyes widened, realizing who they were talking about. "Shit, Maria? My sister. She was just here." She blinked, spotting motion just past the guards and seeing the driver stick his head out the window. "Hey, assholes!" he shouted, startling the two guards. You guys done screwing around there? We got some cargo to deliver." Groaning, Franco tapped the side of the vehicle. "Open up." The doors hissed open, revealing a tall, imposing brunette with a long sword and a more timid redhead sitting across her in the passenger's compartment. Lucia's eyes met hers. Lucia's eyes met that of the redhead, cowering away. She sighed and climbed aboard, hearing the brunette speak up. "Hey, Sapphire, this all the Newlits?" Lucia's forehead crinkled, looking up at the Amazon. "Yeah, that's all of them." Lucia, vaguely confused, voiced her curiosity. "Newlit?" The brunette looked up at her, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, The new ones, the new gals. We just call you that because your flames are new and brightly lit, all full of potential. But weak and easily blown out, Sapphire snarked, climbing on board and sealing the doors. Pfft, come on, Sapphy, you don't need to put him down like that. The medic's already scared shitless. Lucia squinted, her eyes darting to the red head. She saw the medic was curled up, head down and shaking, and she felt her stomach curl. You're not their mom, Danielle. We're making soldiers out of them. They don't need... Hey, Lucia addressed the redhead, cutting off Sapphire. The medic lifted her head, her wide eyes meeting Lucia's. Smiling, Lucia sat beside her, her movements slow and her voice soft. My name's Lucia, but you could call me Wiz for short. She extended her hand. How about you? The medic shook her head. You don't have one? A clicking sound ruptured in the chamber, drawing Lucia's gaze to Sapphire, who had just loaded her rifle. None of us do, she said, sitting beside Danielle. Technically, we're not allowed to, but when we're out on the field, it's a lot easier than numbers. Danielle crossed her legs and folded her arms, chiming in. Well, if we're going to work with the medic here, we're going to have to come up with something for it. Lucia looked back at her, seeing her reflection in her green eyes. Her vision narrowed as she stared into them. Huh. Kind of getting a strawberry vibe from her. Don't know why, but she's kind of cute like one. Maybe... She smiled. How does Sophie sound to you? The medic smiled, answering back and revealing her English accent. Sophie? That sounds sweet. I think I might like the sound of that. Lucia smiled, just in time to feel the jittering of the vehicle as it moved forward, the walls of Inosia fading into the distance as they drove into the forest. All right, and that right over there would be the end of the chapter.
Very interesting.
Admittedly, it was.
None of this is making any sense. I'm guessing. So from what I can tell, it seems like there's some kind of like, Spartan-style super soldier program, where these people have been abducted against their will. But rather than the Spartan program, these people are also being treated very inhumanely.
Yeah, that there's a reason for that comes up in a few chapters. Like skip over one chapter and you'll be getting the answer.
Ah, very okay. And then I don't know what was happening earlier. I think
that was a dream sequence.
Yeah, that
there's
was
a reason why.
So there's a dream sequence, then a flashback.
No, the dream sequence was a flashback.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought.
Wait, no, wait. What is about the guy that she was beating the shit out of?
She wasn't beating the shit out of any guy. She was getting her ass kicked in.
Oh.
Like, she beat up two guys, yeah, but then the last guy beat her up and threw her against a freaking dumpster.
Wait, is she Latina?
Yes.
Hot.
Okay. Anyway, so
sophisticated commentary indeed.
Yeah. So anyway, I have a single burning question over here. So, does it feel like something has happened in this chapter?
I can't tell. I have no context.
Done.
Well, she met Sapphire, and they're going on their mission.
Okay, I mean, like, character-wise and plot-wise.
Plot-wise... Well, part of it is if you have a flashback, it's usually good to space it out or do it a little bit more linearly, where you have or don't really have... It's one of dream sequences in the middle of flashbacks. unless you make it very clear that it's in a different period of time, which I don't know if that necessarily happened in this.
All right, so the sequence at the beginning was supposed to be just a glimpse into Rosa's life before all of this, and the way that I decided to do that was to basically have her dreams be her reliving her past life to an extent. Although, of course, it is distorted since it's a dream. So that was the mechanism by which I sought to have flashbacks. Anyway, so as far as her character progression is concerned, would you say that we have seen some sort of progression over there compared to, like, I don't know, at the beginning of the book where she beat the shit out of some guy?
Well, part of the thing is it's I'm not sure that I would say that there has been a progress necessarily so much as context has been added, but it was slightly confusing context in some places.
Oh, I'm not the only one who's confused? Great, perfect.
Well, kind of I was just thrown off. I was just kind of thrown off at the beginning because I'm just like, wait, what? There's a flashback and then a flashback? I'm just like, but then a flashback? I'm just like, huh, weird.
I mean, I think
Flashback within a flashback within a flashback. It's
It was
flashbackception.
there was only one flashback.
I think the fact that Maria was present was an indication that it was a flashback because Maria is not with her on the ship, right?
She's not currently with Rosa right now. As a matter of fact, the fact that I'm referring to Lucia as Rosa should also be another indicator that this is in fact a flashback because, she doesn't go by Rosa.
Wait.
I also reiterate this point. I literally have her say that was my past life.
Is there reincarnation?
No, she woke up from a stasis pod.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just
That's why I also have her say that was my life before they put me in the pod.
So, and Maria comes. They refer to Maria again towards the end of the chapter too.
Yes, because currently Rosa's goal is to find Maria, and I decided that if I'm going to have her go achieve this goal, I'm going to have her being proactive in the achievement of said goal. So that's why I'm having her ask the question and get the answers. Because I want her to kind of drive her own plot a little bit, while the rest of the plot is trying to push her in a completely different direction.
Cool. Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm. Also, those quotes that I had while she was trying to practice her powers, those were pulled from previous chapters, like ripped straight out of them, word for word.
Okay.
But it was basically those quotes were just some dialogue that was sprinkled throughout the first act of the book. That each and every single one that was like kind of a cut to her pride and confidence, which in a sense that sequence it serves as like a miniaturized quick version or a summary of the previous act, just like a reminder that this is all the stuff that has happened to her and this is where she is now. She started off being scared to use her powers, and she repressed them, she suppressed them, and now she doesn't have them. So anyway, all of that aside, does anyone have any commentary on anything else?
Rosa is a good waifu. 10 out of 10 would bang.
Okay. Anything else?
I thought I don't know. I don't know who's the villain. I don't know. I don't know. It's just most the rest of the aside from like Rose a bit like being awesome, I was just kind of bored.
Okay. Done. Valerian, do you have any commentary you would like to share? I mean, Noble, you've basically shared everything, yes?
Yes, essentially.
I mean, I certainly wasn't bored. I was engaged. What was I going to say? There's a few issues with style. It's fairly decent, but you use the present participle of ing a lot, and maybe a bit more variety.
Yeah, I admit I could spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not a big thing. That comes with editing and stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I don't have to worry about that because I write screenplays.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did anything feel off-putting about this chapter? At least in the way that it was meant to be.
Was the villain most supposed like that was beating the shit out of Rosa? Was he supposed to come off as a rapist?
Yes. He's a shitty human being.
I see.
And there's a reason why his face was overlapping with Lynn, because Lynn was also much the same person.
Ooh.
He was a guy at the beginning of the book. He was just there to set up the story, really. At least set up the initial conflict.
Oh, I do have a question. What's a Dominix?
So, Dominix is just my version of saying half Phoenix. So, it's a combination of Demi and Phoenix. So, Dominix.
Okay, it's not related to dominate then. It's not Dominix. It's Demi-Nix. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, yeah. I guess I could fix up my pronunciation of it, but
well, it's no big. I was wondering. That's all.
Okay. Let's see. What about you, Dunn? What do you think?
I did think the character work was pretty good. I thought that the dialogue worked well. The only thing I was kind of like, about was kind of, what's the purpose of this? What is this supposed to set up? That was kind of my only kind of qualm with it. I was just like, okay, I don't think this is happening in the main timeline, just by virtue of the fact that Malik isn't there. But I was just confused as to what the purpose is supposed to serve was.
It was mostly just to characterize Rosa and Maria's relationship from before, setting that up so that way when the two characters meet again, I can contrast between how Maria was and how she currently is.
Okay.
And also contrasting the way Rosa was and how she currently is now.
Okay.
Because, as you noticed, Lucia in the present is looking back at Rosa and thinking that she's a bit of a dumbass.
Oh, the reader might be a tiny bit confused.
So wait. Rosa is the one in the present, and then Lucia is the one in the past, right?
They are both the same person.
I know. I'm just making
sure.
I'm just trying to make sure that when you're referring to Rosa, you're referring to the character in the present. When you're referring to Lucia, you're referring to Rosa in the past.
No, I'm referring.
Wait, that reverse it.
Yeah, it's in reverse. You got it in reverse.
Yeah. The reader might be a little confused if you got Sophie and Safi. I mean, it's not confusing at all at the moment, but it might be confusing later.
Admittedly, yeah, I guess that could be a little confusing, but there's Safi is spelled very different from Sophie, so
yeah,
Mostly just when you read it aloud, it becomes confusing, but, in text, it should be just fine.
Yeah.
I'm spelling Sophie with an F.
I just thought it was funny because I'm aware of the word sapphic.
Oh, there is that. There is that. No comment. But
You
yeah.
better include a Yuri scene in your book, otherwise I'm not reading it.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
It's hentai with girl on girl. That's
Okay.
a joke.
I thought it was saying
It's a
Yuri
joke.
like Yuri like the like the chap.
It's a genre of
monkey
hentai.
chap.
It's a yes. It's also the name of like a bunch of anime characters, but yeah.
That would be a riot. It would be hard to take very seriously, but it'd be a riot.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's see. Any thoughts on the guards or the world building right now? At least how I'm portraying the world, because I'm hoping that there is. I'm leaving off a very distinct impression.
I'm confused. Why are there swords and guns in this setting?
You know what? I have never thought to answer that question, Noble. That is a very good question.
Well, yes, I have fucking firearms weaponry autism, and I ask these fucking questions, and that's why I think about that. Like in my series, I'm paying specific attention to detail to firearms and cars, so I think about shit like that.
Well, I mean, people in the Civil War had guns and swords.
Oh yes, but this is clearly supposed to be the future where there are fucking like vehicles.
I have a very simple answer to your question. A, they can literally shoot fireballs and plasma spheres. B, it's cool. And then C, it's because it's actually a reference to the game that this whole series was actually based off of.
And D, that's how he wrote it.
Okay.
Can you keep... Oh, whoops, no comment.
Anyway, what did you guys think of the guards? Like Mitchell and...
Don't look at the chat. Don't look at the chat. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain.
Yeah. Anyway, what did you guys think of like Mitchell and Franco and how the other guards are doing in this setting?
I don't even remember which guys those were.
I mean, I remember there were a couple of guards, and that they were trying, that Safi was trying to put Lucia down, and the guards were kind of standing up for her.
Well, yeah.
So I like that.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice people aren't bleeps now and then. It's nice to have characters who aren't bleeps.
Yeah.
What are bleeps?
Jerks.
Valerian
doesn't swear.
Yeah.
I only swore like a couple
of
times. Once I swore at John for playing that sausage song.
Would you like some sausage?
Anyway, done. To answer some of your questions from before, this whole entire chapter serves to actually set up the next chapter, which is their deployment onto the mission. Rosa's going to see some shit. Eventually, she's going to meet up with Maria. I'm just establishing that, yes, Maria is somewhere close by. It won't be long until they run into each other. Also, Rose is going to need to learn how to use her powers again.
So a Spider-Man No More situation?
Yeah, basically. It is literally a Spider-Man No More situation. Like, I shared this with Aspiring, and he said the exact same thing. So, anyway, I guess that just about covers everything. Sorry for taking up so much time. I just really wanted to make sure I covered all the bases over here.
Sounds good.
Yep, sounds good.
Right.
Noble, it's your turn.
Oh no, I'm actually terrified. Okay, in the private chat I sent links to both the script as well as the reference images for all of the firearms and all of the vehicles used in the script. Mostly in order, except I put the the weapons of the two main protagonists in the, well, actually it's technically in order since so yeah, but I don't mention whatever. It's in order essentially. It should be for the most part. But yes, I'm kind of nervous because I feel like oh my god, I feel like I have like all this high like everybody has like just it's like how do I top like fucking tomboys that shoot fire and like spit blood at people? I don't know. Just I don't know how to top that.
Noble, you list this up right now. It's my stuff is not impressive. At least I don't think it's that impressive. Like I've heard some really cool shit over here in the past. Like, is it a matter of the spectacle? It's a matter of the work you put into it. It's a matter of how well you stick to the rules of writing, so to say. And it's also a matter of your presentation. Have some confidence in yourself, my dude.
All right. Well, without further ado, I guess we'll get into Bond Girls Episode 2, Draft 3. All right. Exterior alleyway night. Ruby Jane and Mia Washington hold a male criminal at gunpoint. The criminal appears to be tripping on psychedelics. Mia Washington. There's nowhere to run. We have you cornered. LS Dave. Young lady, your panties are looking mighty fine. Mia Washington. Shit, you can see them? Mia turns red from embarrassment. She looks down at her pants. The criminal runs away while she's distracted. No. Fuck. I misread that. LS Dave. I can't talk right now, but it was nice seeing you, ladies. Jane shoots the criminal in the legs twice with her Colt Python. Mia Washington. What do you think you're doing? Ruby Jane. He would have gotten away. Mia Washington. But he had his back turned, which means he couldn't fight back. And you could have killed him. Ruby Jane. You worry too much. Besides, weren't you the one who hit a dude with your car? Mia Washington. That was different. It was self-defense. Mia Washington. Or not fucking Mia Washington. Ruby Jane. Face it, Mia. In the real world, things will get messy, and you've got to be prepared for when shit hits the fan. All right. Interior, Paul Adams' office, and then I forgot to say the time. Day. We'll do that later. Paul. All right. Paul Adams sits while Mia and sits at his desk while Mia and Jane stand across from him. Paul Adams. Aside from shooting an unarmed man, you girls did quite well. The situation could have been handled better, but I think you girls are ready for a more high-profile assignment. Mia Washington. Does this mean we're getting paid more for this job? Paul Adams. That would be correct. The woman you are looking for is a high-profile member of the Italian mafia named Silvia Galea. She's considered a big deal because the police have reports that from low-level street thugs that she has the ability to use mind control on people, which has earned her the nickname the Gray Matter Witch. Ruby Jane. Why would the police believe something so far-fetched? Mia Washington. Obviously, these guys are trying to get out of trouble. Paul Adams. I have my doubts about the reports, but they are consistent, so make of that what you will. You both are dismissed. All right. Exterior suburbs, night, establishing shot of the house. Of a house with Mia Washington's green 1971 Plymouth Cuda parked in the driveway. Interior shower day. Mia Washington is taking a shower. She looks upset, as if she's in deep thought. Interior shooting range day. Cut to interior shooting range day. A flashback of 6-year-old Mia Washington with her father. Her father hands her a Smith & Wesson Model 39. While the gun is in her hands, he pulls back the slide of the gun. David Washington, remember, Mia, whenever someone hands you a gun, you always check to make sure if it's loaded first. Yeah. Is the gun loaded? Young Mia Washington, it's empty. David Washington, that's correct. That means it's safe to take it from me. Cut to interior shower day. Mia turns the water off and steps out of the shower. She grabs a towel and wraps it around herself. Interior hallway day. Mia Washington steps out of the bathroom. Ruby Jane walks up to Mia. Oh, hey, Mia. I'm letting you know I'm meeting with a client at a hotel. He said he works for the mafia, and he might know a thing or two about Sylvia. Mia Washington. Which hotel is it? Ruby Jane. Don't worry, I wrote down the address on the fridge. Call me if I don't get back to you by 10 p.m. Mia Washington. Understood. Good luck. Exterior hotel night, establishing shot of the hotel. Interior hotel bedroom day. Let's. God damn it. A half-naked Ruby Jane and her client Clyde kiss and grope each other on on the bed with the room dimly lit. Jane straddles the man and leans in to kiss him on the lips. Clyde kisses her back with a NLSD pill on his tongue. He slides the pill into her mouth and for her to swallow. All right. Interior Mia's bedroom day. Mia sits on her bed, holding her Sig Sauer P226. The gun is pointed down the floor with her finger, and her finger is off the trigger. Interior shooting range day. Continued flashback of young Mia Washington and her father. Mia Washington takes the Smith & Wesson Model 39 from her father and wraps her finger on the trigger. David Washington. Don't do that, Mia. Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Young Mia Washington. But the gun isn't loaded. David Washington. That's true, but you always need to treat the gun as if it is loaded. Mia Washington holds the gun up to her dad, excited. Look, Daddy, my finger is on the trigger. Mia's dad grabs her by the shoulders and turns her facing the paper target. David Washington, careful, Mia. Don't point a gun at. Sorry, don't point your gun at anything you aren't willing to destroy. Young Mia Washington. Oops, sorry, Daddy. David Washington, you'll learn it. Someday, you might be better than me. All right. Mia Washington chuckles and smiles at her dad. Her dad smiles back. Cut to. All right. Cut to interior Mia's bedroom day. Mia puts Mia puts the gun on her nightstand and puts on her underwear. All right. Interior hotel bedroom day. Naked Ruby Jane straddles Clyde as the two climax, and then Ruby Jane lies on top of Clyde. Clyde, your skills are quite impressive. Ruby Jane. Why, thank you, darling. Now, about Sylvia. Clyde checks his watch. Clyde. Yeah, I could take you to Sylvia. Ruby Jane. Oh, that would be perfect. Just let me call Mia first. Ruby Jane reaches for her phone, but when she does, her vision becomes distorted and she starts seeing bright colors. Ruby Jane, I don't feel so well. Clyde, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine to see Sylvia. Ruby Jane, I guess you're right. Exterior, mansion, night. A black 1999 Lexus LS 400 parks in front of a mansion. Ruby Jane and Clyde step out of the car. Interior, mansion, day. Clyde takes Jane to a small room in the mansion with a chair in the middle of it. A brunette woman dressed in female business attire and her tall bald bodyguard walk into the room. Ruby Jane, Sylvia Galea, that's me. Why don't you take a seat, Ruby Jane? Ruby Jane sits down in the chair. Ruby Jane, how do you know my name? Sylvia Galea. I've seen your videos, and I'm a huge fan of yours. Ruby Jane, so are you going to use your mind control on me? Sylvia Galea, well, it's not quite mind control. You might be aware. You might, sorry, you might not be aware, but but Clyde gave you an LSD tablet while while under the influence. Your mind is more open to suggestions, which means with enough time and conditioning, I could brainwash you into being my slave. Clyde, boss, she tried to call her partner for help. Sylvia, then you and Enzo go back to the hotel and and wait there in case she goes looking for her. Clyde and the ballroom man leave the room. Interior, living room, day. Aya Washington is sitting on the couch playing video games in her underwear. She looks over at the clock. The clock reads 11:37. Aya Washington. Jane should have called by now. Something must be up. Mia pauses the game and picks up the phone. She dials Ruby Jane's number and listens to ringtone. Ruby Jane's voicemail. You've reached the voicemail of Janet Smith. I can't take your call at the moment. Please leave a message after the beep and I'll call you. ... Mia hangs up the phone. Mia Washington. Looks like I'm going to have to rescue a princess. Mia gets off the couch. Interior, hallway, day. Mia Washington walks up to the hotel. Walks up to the hotel room that Ruby and Clyde were staying at. The door is open, and the room is dark inside. Mia Washington. Must be a trap. Mia pulls her Sig Sauer P226 out of her holster. Interior, hotel room, night. Mia steps into the room with her gun raised. As she looks around the corner, Clyde jumps from the corner and tries to grab her. Mia fires 3 shots at Clyde. All of them hit his torso. Clyde collapses to the ground and is presumed dead. Enzo comes from behind Mia and grabs her. Her gun drops to the ground. She tries to fight back, but she can't escape his grasp. Enzo picks up Mia and slams her to the table. The force smashes the table and knocks Mia unconscious. All right. Interior mansion bedroom, day. POV of Mia waking up, looking around. She sees Sylvia sitting in a chair across from her. Mia reaches for her gun, but her jacket and holster and boots have been removed. Sylvia, don't you think we wouldn't have taken your guns away? Mia Washington. Where am I? Sylvia. You're safe with me now. Mia Washington. Where's Jane? Your friend is having a bad trip right now, but we can use that to reshape her mind. Mia Washington. That's not how LSD works. Sylvia. Actually, it's one of the lesser known side effects of the drug. It was discovered by the CIA during the Cold War as a part of their MK Ultra program. They found the results to be unsatisfactory, so they abandoned the project in 1973. However, I have found the key to using it properly. They thought they could use LSD as a mind control device. I simply use it as a tool that is a part of a greater process. Yeah, Washington. Well, it won't work on me. Sylvia. Unfortunately for you, it's all a matter of understanding your psychology. Once I can do that, I can condition your mind to think and act however I want. Sylvia walks towards the bed with a syringe in her hand. She grabs Mia's arm and sticks the needle in it. Sylvia injects the syringe into Mia's arm. Mia grabs the syringe and stabs Sylvia in the chest with it. Mia pushes Sylvia off her and makes a run for the door, holding her side. Interior mansion hallway. Day. All right. Mia steps out of the bedroom and onto into the main hallway. She starts walking down the hallway, still holding her ribs and wincing from every step. She hides in the nearest room when she hears footsteps. All right. Interior mansion bathroom. Day. Mia Washington locks the bathroom door and she leans against the wall as she listens to the footsteps. Mia holds her breath and remains completely still. Footsteps stop right in front of the door for a second, but the person keeps on walking. Mia starts to have hallucinations. And the walls begin closing in on her. Mia closes her eyes. Interior shooting range. Day. Flashback of young Mia Washington. She fires 8 rounds at a paper target out of the Smith & Wesson Model 39. The slide locks open, indicating the gun is empty. Mia Washington, disappointed. I didn't hit the target. David Washington. Take your time. You don't need to shoot so fast. Load a new magazine and we'll try again. Mia reloads the gun. David Washington. Now line up the gun with the center of the target. Mia does as she is told. She lines the sights of the gun with the target. David Washington. Do you see the center of the target? Mia Washington. Yes, Daddy. David Washington. Now fire 1 shot. Mia fires a shot at the target. The bullet hits the middle ring of the target. David Washington. Did you see where it hit? Young Mia Washington. It hit on the bottom left. David Washington. Then aim up a little up to the left and to the right, but not too much. Mia adjusts the gun again and fires another shot. This time it hits the center ring. Young Mia Washington. I hit a bullseye. David Washington. You did. Good job. Now let's keep trying. Mia Mia lines up the gun for another shot, but she's interrupted by a knocking on the door. Cut to interior mansion bathroom day. Mia wakes up to someone trying to open the bathroom door. They try to twist the knob. And then they try knocking on the door. Sylvia. Mia, I know you're in there. Can you open the door? You've been a bad girl. Come out so I can punish you. Cut to. All right. Cut to interior. School principal's office. Day. Flashback of Mia Washington. Flashback of David Washington. Dressed in his police uniform. Walking into the room. A 7-year-old Mia Washington is sitting in the chair. Hold on, that fucks. She is kicking. Sorry. She is looking down at the floor. With her, shuffling her feet back and forth. Sorry. All right, David Washington. Tell me what happened, Mia. Young Mia Washington. I punched a boy because he was picking on my friend Lily. David Washington. You can't hurt other kids, Mia. Young Mia Washington. But you said that it was okay to defend myself and the people I care about. David Washington. I did say that. There are rules that everyone has to follow. At school, you can't get into fights. Even my job has rules because that's how I keep people safe. Mia Washington. Am I a bad girl? David Washington. No, you're not. I know you thought you were doing the right thing, but you still have to follow the rules, and the school rule is no fighting. Young Mia Washington. Okay, Daddy. David Washington. Let's go home, Mia. All right. Sylvia opens the door and steps into the office. Interior mansion bathroom day. Mia snaps back to reality as Sylvia stands before her. All right. Mia stands up. Mia cups her hands together as if she was holding a gun. Sylvia. Mia, I have a friend who wants to see you. Jane, come out. Ruby Jane enters the room. Sylvia, you see? Your friend has been much more cooperative. It will hurt less if you just do as you're told, like Jane. Mia raises her hands and points the imaginary gun at Sylvia. Sylvia, what are you doing? Mia Washington. What does it look like I'm doing? I'm pointing a gun at you. Sylvia. But you're not holding a gun. You're just hallucinating a gun. Mia Washington. Do you want to test that theory? I'll shoot you. Sylvia. I guess you could shoot me. But then how would you undo your friend's brainwashing without me? Mia Washington's expression changes from confidence to doubt. Sylvia. That's it. Put the gun down. I can help your friend, but you need to do exactly what I say. Mia Washington begins to lower her imaginary gun, but then she pauses for a second and takes in a deep sigh. Mia Washington quietly to herself, I'm sorry, Dad. Mia Washington points her imaginary gun at Ruby Jane. Mia Washington. If I can't undo the brainwashing, then I'll just shoot her instead. Sylvia laughs evilly. Sylvia makes an evil laugh. Sylvia. You don't want to kill your friend, Mia Washington. Don't worry, she'll survive. Mia Washington squeezed the trigger of her imaginary pistol. Mia Washington. Bang! Ruby Jane grabs her chest only to realize there is no gunshot wound. Ruby Jane. Am I dead? Mia Washington. You're not dead. You're just hallucinating. I need your help arresting this woman. Remember, she's our bounty? Ruby Jane. I remember now. Both Jane and Mia punch Sylvia in the face and knock her out. And cut to exterior ice cream stand day. All right, flashback. David stands in front of the main window. Window. Yeah. The man in the window hands him a chocolate and strawberry ice cream cone. He walks over to young Mia Washington, who is sitting on the bench. David Washington. I got you strawberry, your favorite. David gives Mia the strawberry cone. She takes it. Young Mia Washington. I thought I was in trouble for hitting a kid. David Washington. You're still in trouble, and I'll have to think of a punishment for when we get home. But I am proud of you for standing up for what you believe in. I know someday you're going to grow up to be an amazing young woman. David puts his hand on Mia's head and roughs up her hair, and Mia Washington smiles. And that is the end. I'm sorry, I'm still really bad at reading shit out loud because I don't know.
It's all right. It's all right. You did your best for now.
Yeah.
Obviously there's still room to improve, but don't get too hung up on that.
Right.
I will, however, state this right now. Noble, my brother in Christ, remember how I had one flashback sequence nested into a dream sequence at the beginning of the chapter I presented, and everyone here got confused by that? You have a whole ass other episode just interspersed, cutting in and out with this one over here, and I'm just going to say, yeah, this is just a worse. That's just an even bigger version of the same problem that I had going on over here.
Well, it's very clear. Okay, no.
I know. You made it very clear.
The difference, though, is like, okay, I actually like Mia. I say like I use the same name for my fucking characters, though. If Mia Washington doesn't change from Mia Washington to Lucy Washington. Okay. And she's a fucking child in the flashbacks.
Okay.
I'm just saying, it is so much less confusing, although I feel like half of this is flashbacks.
Yes. The point that I'm trying to demonstrate over here, Noble, was that interspersing that throughout the whole thing like that, and the timing of which you cut in and out, that is very, very important. That it's very important that we know where these scenes end and where they begin. And the only indicator that we're in a flat is just names between the two. Actually, it's similar to what I've got going on, but again, I reiterate, this is basically a similar problem to what I had going on over here.
So are there rules and scripts for how you show that something is a flashback? Would you just put flashback at the top of the scene, or how does that work?
I just declared that it is a flashback.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules are. There must be rules about that.
There probably is a more official way of stating this is a flashback, but that's just me in my script noting that this is a flashback. Also, fuck you, Trip. I don't care. That's not how fucking LSD works. It's how it works in the continuity of fucking Bond girls. That's how it's consistent with how I portray it. That's what matters. I will
Okay.
put attention to detail into firearms, into
Well, I will compliment this right now. I do appreciate the firearm safety tutorial in the flashback sequences.
It's supposed to be important because when she's like because in the moment where she like has to like decide where she's holding the fake gun, because that's what she's using to like mentally ground herself in her own reality, is the fake gun that she's trying to imagine actually exists. And so like when she realizes she can't like, because the whole idea is that when she's using the fake gun, like Sylvia is like gonna like deny her, the gun's not real, and that's going to for like Mia Washington to reassure her, yes, that the gun isn't real, so therefore anything that Sylvia says is bullshit. Or you know, that's for trying to have her like not listen to Sylvia, because she's like now she's trying to like, but then Sylvia kind of figures out, she's trying to use this fake gun as like a way to like escape the mind control. So she goes along with the fake gun and reassures her that it's real, but that like that she still needs Sylvia, and that and in which Mia Washington realizes, oh fuck, there's no way to do like it's just like, okay, well if she's caught on to my strategy, well then I'll have to do something more drastic. And even though she's not actually holding a gun, the fact that she's like implying to hold a gun at her friend, which is something that she's like, she wouldn't be practicing trigger discipline in this scenario. She wouldn't be, she'd be pointing a gun at something she's not willing to destroy. In which, even though it's like an LSD hallucination, which we don't know if she can actually see the gun or not. That's supposed to be like up to the audience's interpretation of whether or not she actually sees the gun. And so she's breaking the rules of firearm safety. That's why I have the flashbacks of firearm safety, because she has to break the rules of firearm safety, and she's having to break the rules. Like breaking the rules that her father taught her, which again she learned that everything has rules, even like school, even the police. That's why she's like has the flashback scene of her like punching a bully at school and getting in trouble for that. And so she's breaking the rules, and that's kind of her character arc, is from being a goody two shoes to breaking the rules for the greater good.
Okay. Does everybody else have any? Huh?
I don't know. Was that executed well? Did you like that? Is that what you wanted when you said the characters weren't interesting?
I don't think.
I'm talking to Dunn. Dunn.
I think you've definitely put some extra character in it, but ultimately I don't really have anything to really be invested in. It's just it's a run-of-the-mill crime procedural without an overarching story, really.
It's not a bad... I mean, it's not... the whole mind control thing is interesting.
Yeah, and also to note, you can do something that's episodic. However, I mean, he is writing a screenplay for presumably a TV show.
I am trying to do it episodically instead of having an overarching narrative, because then I could have I could have a more diverse set of villains with a lot of more like more interesting gimmicks, and have more different kinds of car chases, more different gunfights, and
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now, Noble. So a long time ago, when I was going through the first drafts of this book, before I was even on this stream over here, I was talking with a guy I was sharing my book with a guy who was former military. He is a veteran. He pointed out to me, hold on for a second, a general would not be going out onto the field like this, because originally Malik's rank was general. I mean, originally it was also going to be chancellor, but that's beside the point. So my reaction to that wasn't to tell him, "Fuck you. This is how it works in my story now."
Oh, we're
My
talking about
reaction was,
LSD.
no, I'm
We're still
talking
talking about
about.
the LSD. I
No,
don't
no,
look. I
stop. I am not talking about the LSD. I'm talking about attitude
Sure.
towards criticism. When I was told that this is not how it works in the real world, I simply took in his criticism and took it to heart, and I decided to work with the new limitation. That is why he is a captain instead of a general now, because a captain gives him the political office, but also allows him to still be deployed. And I'm going to simply put this right now. If somebody is telling you from experience this is not how something works, you should take that to consideration. After all, you are going through gun safety. And let me tell you, no, there's a whole bunch of movies and media that does not give a rat's ass about gun safety or even covers it. So, if you're going to be such a stickler about gun safety, but you're going to play fast and loose with everything else, people are not going to like that.
I mean, it could just maybe research mind control drug and see what comes up.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Well, I
take
based this
time and
off
effort
of
to
the.
look into
I
it.
got the inspiration specifically because of the MK Ultra program, and that's why I chose LSD of all things.
Yeah, that was
the
very
And
apparent.
I feel like what matters
good.
for this instance is that it's consistent within the setting of of Bond Girls and I did respond to it more hostilely than I should have, but my point though is that I established how it works, like Sylvia explains how it works within the context of Bond Girls, within the Bond Girls setting. And so I portray those rules consistently. I also have it so that the effects don't take in like instantaneously, because okay, Mia Washington doesn't actually like start hallucinating. It's right after like the person like from the door, like after she like nearly escapes the person like who walking by like the door. Like it's supposed to be like about like 10 minutes, but like you can't actually show that in a screenplay. So it kind of does like look as though she's like hallucinating right after she like took the dose, but she wouldn't actually be. That's why Clyde gets Jane to take the pill before he like starts trying to control her and influence her. Is so that like before they have sex, so that they so there's some time for it to like for the effects to kick in. That's why he checks his watch to make sure, okay, is this the right amount of time? If you don't want to play within the rules of LSD, make up something new.
Yeah, just make something up.
Not a real world drug.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's what that's what they did in the thing that actually inspired this episode and inspired the character of Sylvia. Is they made up a fake drug, but I didn't like the fake drug because there were no rules.
What you have done is the same thing.
There were rules. I followed my own.
But they're not consistent. They're not.
They are consistent.
With reality. They're not consistent with reality. That's the problem. So because you're trying to create a sense of realism, there's a measure of cognitive dissonance where you make up rules for LSD but have the same rules as reality for guns. If you're going to make up rules, just make up a new drug and be consistent with the rules of the drug. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you could literally just say that it was based off of LSD, and there.
All right, there we go. That makes me feel better. And that'll also explain why the CIA and I could still use the backstory of the MK Ultra program.
Yeah, you could totally do that, and it would work.
Yeah, you could even refer to that program and say that but then they worked on and improved it and created this new drug.
Well, okay, Sylvia would have made the new drug based off of LSD and based off the research done by the CIA, which that actually, if I could work on that and imply that Sylvia is an ex-CIA operative and is just like turned to like organized crime, could be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, at the time I was just like, I really don't care how LSD works. I just care about how guns work and how cars work, and I'm gonna make sure that I have my attention to detail with firearms and my attention to detail with car chases, because that's the whole purpose of the story, is the attention to detail to the car chases and the gunfights. Which if I don't include a car chase or a gunfight in my story, then I have not met my action scene quota, which is one car chase or one gunfight per episode. Which is
Well, you
why
don't
it
need
has
to
the
have that
episodic
quota.
nature.
Well, you don't really need that quota.
Well, yeah, I do, because then like the whole purpose of the series is the attention to detail to the action scene. So if you're not having the action scenes, then you're...
Yeah, but you can have a character-focused episode, a more character-centric one.
This was
Really-
a character-focused episode, and then Dunn is like, I still don't like it.
All right.
I don't doubt.
Alright.
I don't doubt. I don't doubt your efforts or your intentions. I doubt your talent at this point.
Maybe this is why I don't bother, because whatever it's going to be, it
fine.
won't satisfy people, and so. Okay,
Doesn't matter
actually,
if you
done.
can.
Which episode was better, this episode or episode 1?
I would say that you have improved.
Hold
But
on,
You have gone from probably, I'd say about a 4 to a 6.
Out
I
of
would still
10?
have- yes. So I would say that you have improved, but there are certain problems there where I don't know what your hook is. I don't know what your what the audience is supposed to latch on to.
They're supposed to latch on to. I want to say the fact that like it's the fucking autistic attention to detail that I put into it. That's supposed to be what's the interesting part, and then also the fact that the main protagonists are hot.
well, that's not enough.
Yeah.
None of that is enough to engage the audience. So I've been I've been doing some research for a bit. Obviously, I'm not very sure how well everything's shaken out with what I presented today, but I've basically learned that 3 things that keep an audience engaged with a protagonist is one of 3 items. It is likability, it is proactivity, and then competence. These 3 items can be at varying degrees within a character. You can have a character who has all 3, in which they're just simply they're supposed to be an iconic character, or you could have them deficient. Yeah, or you could have them deficient in one of these elements, and by the end of the narrative, they would have improved in said element. Like, for example, Han Solo is unlikable, but however, he is proactive and he is competent, which is why people are invested in him, because he is good at his job and he takes initiative. Luke Skywalker is very likable, he is proactive, he's constantly trying to get off the planet, and but he's lacking a level of competence. He has competence, but he doesn't have the right kind, which is what he's going to develop throughout the course of the story. Well, for example, and over here, Rosa/Lucia is much the same. She is meant to be likable. She is meant to have a level of proactivity in her narrative, but she is lacking competence in the thing that makes her unique and special from everyone else, that being her powers. So, I ask you, Noble, what are the characteristics? How do Mia and Ruby rank by these metrics?
They're both proactive. They're both competent. Well, at least they're proactive in like doing like doing their job. They're both competent at their job. I don't know.
Okay.
It's I would say that Ruby Jane like ranks higher along the in-universe likability. I don't know. I'd like.
Okay, how are these elements developing throughout the course of the story?
That actually is an interesting
Don't
point.
know.
There isn't really much of necessarily a structure.
Yeah,
Here.
there needs to be a flow. That was the issue that people kept pointing out about my story, is that there wasn't a flow. There wasn't any direction or any that's why I was harping on about this earlier today after I presented myself, is because this is very, very important. You need to make the audience feel like something has developed or changed over here. And you also need to give the characters a strong sense of motivation to work towards their goals. Like, why is Ruby and Mia doing this stuff? Why do they care about it?
I hate that question.
Well,
because I
you
don't
need to
care as a
answer
writer.
it. But you need to answer it, because if you don't care as to why the hell are they doing this, then people aren't going to care. I'm not going to care about their story if I don't know why they care about it so much. People don't just do things at random, Noble. People do things for a reason. I'm an engineer in real life because it is something that I feel I'm competent at, and it's also a good source of revenue. That's my motivation for doing that. Dunn over here likes writing. He loves writing, and that is his motivation for doing that.
Yes, because fan service.
Okay, so is that all your narrative is? Is that all you have to offer?
No. I was responding to a comment that was on screen.
Okay, my bad.
Because he said Mia was sitting in her underwear for until yes, I said yes because fan service, but the reason why I hate so I'll be honest, I kind of have a little bit more I think I did have initially want to have the why they do it is because again, like you said with your engineering, they're good at it and they get paid decently for it. But Dunn said because he's a stinky that's not good enough for a story, and then everybody else is coming up with these suggestions of that they want to get revenge and all this other bullshit.
Okay, I'll go ahead and elaborate. Because it was more a matter of I've always liked building stuff in real life. Like, I used to be obsessed with Legos, Bionicles. Ask Axula, he'll tell you all about it. And my parents kept suggesting that, you could be a great engineer one day. And I decided that is what I'm going to do. I am going to be an engineer. Because it's just been a lifelong thing that I've loved. I've loved putting stuff together and dismantling and rebuilding.
All right. So yes,
honestly,
I don't know. I guess
it doesn't need to be deep. It could even just be, we just want to keep this apartment.
Yeah, it could be simple things.
But ultimately, money is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself.
Yeah, because if they're just in it for the money, that makes the characters greedy and thus unlikable.
There's also the element of they could just go globe-trotting rather than staying in one city doing it.
Yeah, you could actually do. There's scope for you to do a lot with a buddy cop series following two hot chicks. I mean, you could do all sorts of things with that sort of series, but the important thing is that you know who these characters are and what their personality is like, what they believe in, which ties into personality, and why they're doing it.
Because everybody has a
Right.
motivation for doing
Actually,
it.
so I have a story to tell. So I had come up with the help of a friend when I was talking about Mia Washington and Ruby Jane. He helped me come up with this idea where Mia Washington is like as I kind of like depicted in episode 2. Mia Washington's father, David Washington, was a police officer. But what you didn't see is that when she was 10 years old, that he was killed in the field of duty, uh, in which she lives with her uncle for the rest of her teen years and for the rest of her childhood, where
That would be awesome.
right.
Please, we would like to see that.
Right. Okay. And yes, so because of the death of her father, and because like she has like their moral, like, which I did depict her moral principle in like her moral dilemma in episode 2. And because of that, that's why she's like, is that because she wants to follow in her father's footsteps, and she wants to make her father proud, especially since he died. But the and her uncle is a mechanic, so that's why she has like her obsession with cars as well. That's to explain, like, you know, where she gets her obsession with cars. And then I explained this to on the server, and this one little bastard, I don't remember which one it was. I feel like all of the guys who are just like poo-pooing on my shit for the sake of it, I all think they're interchangeable. He's like, that's the most generic backstory ever. Instead, you should make it so that she's trying to numb the pain of her loss, and that's why she's doing what she's doing. I'm like, that's terrible, because that makes her look mentally ill, and I hate mentally ill waifus. They're not hot.
Well, I mean, maybe they were just trying to be helpful, though.
They weren't trying to be helpful. You guys said that was, you wanted to see that, but this guy poo-pooed all over, shedded all over it, and then he's like, oh no, that's not good enough. You have to have characters with emotional damage.
Okay. Calm down. And disregard those comments.
You
don't
have to use those comments if you don't want to.
Yeah, try not to. So one guy mocks your idea and you give it up. Yeah, listen.
I didn't give it up. I implemented it in episode 2. I implemented it. I partially implemented it into episode 2. Like, you see Mia Washington's father as a police officer. You see that's where she gets her like moral principles from. You see that she clearly respects her father and looks up to her father.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's present in the story, and that she's not trying to numb the pain. Which that happened. Like, okay, Mia Washington is canonically 22 years old. So if her father died when she was 10, that was 12 years ago. She has 12 years to move on from her father's death. That is, fuck. I'm also 22. I like that's that's like almost like that's more than half my lifetime ago. So that's more than half her lifetime ago as well. So
I think that you would be served to do research into that sort of situation. Because even if it's just maybe not to add realism, but make it authentic, because that seems to be what you're trying to go for in certain circumstances. But I would definitely take a look at how exactly that kind of thing affects a child.
Yeah, because a child learning that her police daddy was killed in the line of duty is actually going to suffer some level of trauma from that, because that is not a normal thing to have happen to you. And it's also a very scary thing to have such a stabilizing figure ripped from you.
Well, then she wouldn't be a bounty hunter. She wouldn't be a tomboy. She'd be the opposite. She'd be more like Ruby
No,
Jane.
noble. You could have her toughen up to compensate for the lack of of a father figure. You could use the fact that she lost her father as an explanation as to why she is a tomboy.
I've admittedly not studied a much more than kind of surface level psychology for a lot of my stuff, but
Yeah,
your brain is still formulating, is still being formed
My brain?
when you're 12.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
When you're 12, you don't really stop your brain developing until roughly like 18 to 25. That's kind of the range. When you get hit by trauma like losing a parent at 12, and especially the aftermath of having to adjust
it's
to
gonna
the
haunt you.
paradigm, it is going to have long running effects on you.
Yeah. It is.
And you can still have the personality be the same, but there would be something underneath if you make that part of the backstory. If you try to do it otherwise, it will come off as inauthentic and people will turn off.
Yeah. Here, Noble, allow me to present to you a very simple example. People who fought in the First World War, almost 100 years later, well, not really 100 years later because they'd be dead, but almost like 70, 60 years after the fact, those young boys who became old men, when they would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, gas, gas. Trauma lasts a very long time, is what I'm getting at. And it also needs to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could just say that she was treated, and that was because her uncle.
And that is a perfectly good way to kind of, well, not skirt around the issue, but to mend the issue.
Okay, well, I'll just do that then. I'll just have it so that her uncle was like a good, like, substitute father figure who was able to fill the role, who was able to fill the void that her father left behind.
Mhm.
But was still like, and I also think I think I also mentioned to this friend that he was still kind of wary and like of Mia Washington like being a police officer, which is why she's a bounty hunter, not a police officer, is because she's doing like, she's like, yeah, I'm not gonna like be a police officer like my dad, but she just gets around that by becoming a bounty hunter. Even though her uncle is trying to teach her mechanic skills so that she like has something like to do, it's like, hey, I'm trying to teach you being a mechanic so that to encourage you to not be like your dad, because your dad got killed, and I don't want that happening to you, and I don't want you finding out the hard way what it was actually like to be a police officer and the difficult situations that police officers have to make. And so he's trying to protect her and trying to like not only like keep her safe, but also protect her from losing her innocence.
Nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah. You see, the genius is staring you in the face, Noble. It's just a matter of recognizing it and going for it. That is something that I've learned the hard way several times.
With this amount of characterization, I feel like maybe I don't even need to characterize Ruby Jane. You guys are saying that all of this stuff is so good. Maybe if I could just get away with Mia Washington being the protagonist and Ruby Jane being the secondary protagonist and being like the sidekick.
I mean, you could.
I don't
here's
know.
the
I
thing.
have
Noble,
my
Noble,
ideas.
Noble,
I don't know. I don't know if
let
you
me
guys
stop
are
you right
interested.
there.
Oh,
Let me stop you right there for a second. This is episodic, correct?
yes.
So you can have an episode focusing on Mia Washington's backstory, and then you can have another one focusing on Ruby's backstory. You can do both.
Right.
I mean,
Anyway, I do have some ideas in regards to Ruby Jane's backstory, although she has a little bit more. She is the more like mentally, like emotionally damaged one, because I care more about Mia Washington being a good waifu than I care of Ruby Jane being a good waifu, because Ruby Jane is an ex-porn star with double D cups and a redhead, and she's a redneck, and she is really horny. So obviously, there's a built-in audience who's going to want to like, who's going to see who's going to see Ruby Jane as a waifu, regardless of what I do. It's just the character design alone and just the backstory alone is going to make people like want to draw like Rule 34 or whatnot of her. So I can kind of do whatever I want and not care. To do whatever I want with her. And so basically, and it's also funny because I got this inspiration from an argument I had where I was arguing against corporal punishment. This is where I got the inspiration where I was arguing against corporal punishment, saying that it was wrong. And I thought, it's like, okay, why don't I use that and my belief that corporal punishment is wrong and add that into the story, where part of the reason why Ruby Jane Ruby Jane was like raised in like a very like conservative, very redneck, very like Christian household, where she had like there's these really strict rules and that she had to follow, and whenever she breaks those rules, her dad would hit her, which scared her and traumatized her and made her hate and resent her father. And her like becoming a porn star and her like being this femme fatale is her coping mechanism of her kind of like, now I control men don't control me.
It's a rebellion against what her life was from before.
She's doing that to like, as I said, like she's doing it because like her father was like the main male figure in her life, and now she's like acting this way because she like has this feeling of, I have superiority, I have the control over men now, like they don't have control over me now. And that's kind of the logic behind it, and that's kind of why she's like is the way she is, and it's because of that trauma and that experience.
So that would make her into a bad person then.
Again, I don't care. I only care about making Mia Washington into a good person.
Okay.
I would like to see more of that contrast in the writing itself, because that does seem like it would be interesting.
I'm working on it. So this is an episode. This is a Mia Washington episode. You'll get a Ruby Jane episode. That was my next plan. In fact, it's going to combine. It was going to combine the plans for the episode 2 idea that I completely threw out. Where I don't want to spoil it, or my idea, but basically it's going to take an idea from episode 2 that I had, and it's going to combine that with another idea that I had and a suggestion that a friend of mine on another server gave me.
Okay, I want to dispel something really quickly. Characterization doesn't have to be solely from a character-focused chapter.
In the backstory, that's not what I was putting across. I'm just talking about in terms of dialogue between the characters. It doesn't have to be a long exposition dump. It's just the passive dialogue that they have individually.
Oh, so style, basically.
I will, I don't know. I might have. I don't know how to do that though.
Okay.
I don't know how to do that naturally.
Might take some practice.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I might need some practice. Yeah, if you want, yeah, you can easily practice that. Like, I wasn't very good at writing character dialogue when I was starting. It's actually a skill that you have to learn where you just distill down the core character traits of the character and figure out how they talk, and then you figure out how somebody else talks, and then you just have them bounce off of each other. And oftentimes I'll have a rhythm that I go with dialogue where I'll have something I want to accomplish, but mostly when I write, I do it when I write dialogue, it's semi-stream of consciousness.
It's actually quite difficult to show character through dialogue, especially if you've got a lot of characters.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. That is one of the things that I personally feel like I struggle the most with right about now. It is not easy to do.
I'm not that good at it either, to be honest.
Honestly, I would say that what the best character writer that I've read is Joe Abercrombie.
Oh, thank God it's not Brandon Sanderson.
I like Brandon Sanderson's character writing. He does well with certain characters, but Joe Abercrombie is a much better wordsmith than Brandon Sanderson is. However, I don't think he would like Joe Abercrombie because Joe Abercrombie is an unapologetic grimdark fantasy writer, where his main character is where one of his main characters is a man who tortures people for a living.
Okay, is there any film or like television that does character writing very well?
I would say stuff like White Collar does things like that well. Warehouse 13 does good procedural drama stuff well. Let me see, what are some other ones? Dexter actually has very good character writing.
The British mysteries like Morris does it very well.
Let me think. What are some Breaking Bad does dialogue very, very well. Better Call Saul does dialogue very well.
All right, it looks like I'm gonna have to watch Breaking Bad. I've only watched a few episodes of the show, and that's kind of where I got my inspiration for episode 1. Was what if Walter White was the bad guy, and what if Walter White failed, and not because of the police, but because Mia Washington and Ruby Jane were the ones that kind of traced down a trail of breadcrumbs that happens to lead back to him. And I think plot-wise it was very good, but it's just, again, like, you guys are more concerned about character than the plot making sense, or the firearms making sense, or the banter being funny and witty.
So, here's the thing. Those are baseline. We're asking for something higher from you.
I see.
Like I can totally get why you would say that, but from my point of view, those things are the baseline.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Indeed, they're very stupid and naive. And George Lucas is a terrible writer who doesn't.
George Lucas is a terrible writer. What?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a.
Oh my God! I wish Replica were here to hear you say that.
Oh, rabbit hole.
Indeed, it would be extremely amusing. But yeah, George Lucas is a bad writer who doesn't know how to write prophecy narratives, nor does he know how to write prodigy narratives. And his dialogue is awful.
I heard Harrison Ford wanted to hand George Lucas one of his scripts and have him read his dialogue out loud.
Yeah.
I wish I could find that clip, but Harrison Ford is a fucking Giga Chad, and I feel bad that he was in that awful Indiana Jones movie. That doesn't exist. It was bad.
Yeah. That also bombed at the box office.
I'm glad it bombed at the box office. If you're gonna bomb my childhood, your movie deserves to be bombed.
Well, there's there hasn't been a good Indiana Jones movie for multiple decades at this point. So
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie, and I will go on stream and defend that movie.
Why? Okay.
Oh,
I guess it's just like, well, it's not as bad as most of the other crap that's been coming out of late, but it's still not very good.
Again, I will have this argument with you another time, and I will stream debate you. I challenge you to a stream
Which
debate
movie?
on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I mean, it was pretty. Like, there's a reason why the phrase "nuke the fridge" exists, and it's because that film did that. And holy crap, that's stupid. No, that is as bad. That is as bad as the freaking hyperspace kamikaze. That is how bad it is. You have completely destroyed my ability.
Either. That was cool.
You have.
I mean, the character of Holdo was a fucking asshole, but the scene itself is like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's essentially like the hyperspace spaceship is like a giant bullet going super fast, so of course it would cut through another spaceship.
Yeah, you have completely destroyed the Star Wars universe with that, because now we all think, why the fuck isn't anybody weaponized hyperspace yet? Is there any explanation for it at all? And there is none. And that scene where they nuked the fridge, that is not how nukes work. That's not how any of this shit works. That is a load of bullshit. Indiana Jones is freaking dead. You vaporized him. He should be mush, even if that fridge survives. He is mush now.
Not to be rude.
All right, aside from the fridge scene, what else was bad? You were saying
we're not here to discuss Kingdom of Crystal Skull. We want to... Valerian, I'm sorry.
I've seen just bits of it, and I'm just like, this is remarkably unimpressive.
Oh, you're right. I would love to have a full stream where...
Guys, I think we should move on and allow Valerian his time.
All right, that works out, because I actually have to use the bathroom because I drank a lot of water when I was reading my script.
Yeah, let me, if you don't mind, let me do my reading, because I need to go on my walk. So I'm going to have to cut my reading short as it is, because it's very late, unfortunately.
Again, I'm terribly sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's not your fault. It's just, it was destiny. I'm sharing my map because people get confused sometimes. Let's see. So this is that story. I should have written down a summary. I should write down a summary so I can recap better. But anyway, we have this empire called Sandaran. That's all this stuff here. The big island to the left, towards the center of it, is the kingdom is where the castle of Serthatan is located. That's the castle where the good guys are holed up at the moment. The emperor is a creepo and a bad guy, and he has sent this is grossly oversimplifying everything, and he sent an army over. The army are heading towards the castle now. So the good guys are named Margaret, Barama, and Muku. Those are the good guys, and Daraimi is the main bad guy. There's also a chap named Burunu who's a bad guy. We'll see if those come up in this story or not. In this or not. So we have reached the point where a messenger is coming to bring them news. Okay, the company were snacking on beach fruit when a messenger arrived from one of the northeastern vassals and beat insistently on the drum outside the hall. "Who comes?" said Margaret. "A messenger from the castle of Margan," replied the messenger. "I come with urgent tidings." "Enter and report," said Margaret. The messenger rushed in and bowed hastily. "My lady, an army is on the march, bound straight for Serthatan. They're Sandaranian and are coming from the east-northeast. Reports say they have already done enormous damage, killing and pillaging and raping as they go. We are in the gravest danger. Margaret turned pale and covered her mouth in horror, although this bad news was not unexpected. Whilst Barama looked somewhere between angry and excited and gripped the hilt of his sword. Margaret's husband, Edrion, grimaced and made a languid gesture of annoyance. Admittedly, the food here was good, but was it worth the hassle? Why did he have to get caught up in Margaret's silly quarrels? Let's see. Muku, on the other hand, remained calm with only a flicker in the eye to suggest how he felt. How far along are your preparations for a siege? He asked, taking out his honey tablet. Margaret clasped her hands together and tried to keep her voice from shaking. Fairly well advanced. My father had already begun preparing the castle. There's still much to do towards getting the vassals, and the peasantry have, I'm sure, no notion of how to fight in a war. In the old days, they say everyone in Ichalamu knew how to fight. But those days are long gone now. Not in my time or my father's time or his father's time. There are secret passages under the gates, said Margaret, but we need more, and we need to expand those that already exist. Muku scratched some notes on his tablet. It sounds as though you have your work cut out for you. We'd best finish as soon as possible. Time presses. Barama drew his sword out of his scabbard, looked it over judiciously, and resheathed it. We're going to need more weapons, even if there isn't the time to make them very good. Agreed, said Margaret. She sighed. The poor armorers will not be happy, I fear, but so it must be. I'm placing Serthaton on total war readiness. I'll tell the Chancellor to have messengers sent out with the orange handkerchief of war to all vassals and chief peasants, although a good many of them hardly need to be told. I like war, said Barama, absently, and vainly trying to straighten his hair. It gives one something to do. You haven't fought in one yet, remonstrated Muku. We'll see how much you like it then. Ehramaj, Kwaraji, Muharan, which means experience is a cruel teacher. The next several weeks were full of toil, as Serthaton labored to ready itself for the coming onslaught. Repairs to the castle were broken off, as Margaret's masons hastened to expand the network of secret passages under the eastern and northern gates, so that the defenders could break a siege or launch surprise attacks. And to dig similar passages under the south gate and even the western gate, since they had no certainty whence their enemies would assail them, and no one knew what Duke Edrion the Elder would do. The underground shelters had scarcely been used in over a century, so needed a lot of cleaning up. A warren of shiny rats were probably the least obnoxious squatters to have set up camp there. They at least could be eaten in a pinch. Margaret knew full well that she lacked experience in warfare, and spent long and sometimes tedious hours listening to advice from those who had fought under her father and had some knowledge of what was required, although no one really had any experience with sieges. The northern barbarians had had no notion of siege warfare, and since the Sandoranian conquest in the time of Margaret's great-grandfather, Sennathar II, there had never been a siege. It was lucky indeed that some of Margaret's officials and retainers had been forced to fight in Sandaran's wars against Chugga. It gave them some notion of what to expect. But that it would go hard for Serthaton, none doubted. Since anyone on the estates might be attacked regardless of whether they were even armed, Margaret ordered all able-bodied males over the age of 15 be trained to fight, and training was also offered optionally to females over 18. This last provision was unpopular with many of her officials. It is not fitting, insisted Shin, the treasurer. Women should never do or suffer violence. With respect, my lady. I have to agree, said the Castellan Azargan with a bow. We cannot stop you from fighting, my lady, but we must at least not subject the women under our protection to violence. Margaret pounded her fists and began dropping H's in her excitement, to the mild embarrassment of her officials. If the enemy invade our estates, the women will suffer violence anyway. I will not leave them defenseless. Their husbands can defend them, said Shin, trying to keep from rolling his eyes. Only if they are not dead, retorted Margaret, drawing her up to her full height, which was still several inches shorter than the shortest of her officials, and lifting her parasol of office. It is not a matter for debate. I command it. We must all be able to defend ourselves. Her officials bowed their heads, although one or two grumbled under their breath. Training wouldn't do an ounce of good, though, without weapons or armor, for the foe would be well armed. Of that there could be no doubt. So the blacksmiths set to work forging, working against time as ever and anon fresh reports came of the enemy's approach, and every vassal was ordered to take similar measures. There wasn't the time to paint the castle's saber-toothed tiger on the breastplates, so many had to content themselves with plain armor. Some only had bits of metal attached to leather tunics, or did without armor altogether. Each officer, however, had a staff with the crude saber-toothed tiger carved on it, to wave about for the benefit of the troops' morale. They were going to need it. The urgent thing, though, was to ensure food supplies. When the army came, there would be small chance of smuggling in food, even with the secret passages. Fortunately, it had been a good year, so they had a fair bit stowed away, but it had to be made ready for distribution to the commons should the need arise, and it would arise. The commandeering of extra food was little to the liking of the peasants, some of whom didn't care to give yet more of their produce to the Lady Lord. Margaret was well liked on the whole, but a lord is still a lord, and could never be wholly trusted. All Margaret's powers of persuasion were put to the test, and her patience too, knowing as she did that time was pressing. She had several conversations along the lines of, "If we send our food, Lady Lord, we won't have any. Haven't you eaten enough of our food? You won't have it anyway if the enemy sees it from you. If I keep it in Serthaton..." Half a second, sorry. If I keep it in Serthaton, they'll find it harder to get their hands on it. And why do you not take refuge in the castle? My parents and my wife are bedridden and cannot be moved. Unless you use your Lady Lord powers and make them fly. Or after the castle had filled up, the peasants might ask, "Can we shelter in the castle? I am sorry, there is no more room." Why did you give them shelter and not us? Because the others were further out and in greater danger. It's unjust. Nonetheless, Margaret did what she could, and it is well that she did, or many more must have died, or worse. For the storm was upon them, and such ruin as had not been seen in Ihalamu for many a year. And that is enough of that for the moment.
That was pretty engaging.
Dude, that was cool and interesting. I missed part of it. I think I missed like the first like minute or something because uh because I had, yeah, like I said, I had to go to the bathroom. But no, from what I actually heard, I was actually interested. It was comprehensible. I could understand. Oh, they're going to war, and I found it interesting of the different characters' perspectives on war. There was the one character who was enthusiastic to go to war, but had never actually fought in a war, and they're like, "Hey." The other character was like, saying that experience is like a cruel teacher or something.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting dynamic. And then also the boss lady who's like, the women have the option to fight or whatever, and we should like be willing to train the women as well. But they're like, but the women should be protected. It's like, no, like it doesn't matter. Like who's gonna protect them once everybody else is dead? It's like they're gonna be like, they might as well like be a part of the force, you know. It was an interesting. There were some interesting debates and some interesting. I felt like I could get a kind of a sense of a theme going on of like the different perspectives on war. It kind of reminds me of like playing the old like Call of Duty games and seeing like the war quotes after you die. You know,
Yeah.
it
I
kind of
definitely
reminds.
get.
So you
Good.
did. So the basic idea did come through of what I just read. Then.
I'm also getting a very distinct impression of desperation from the lady, in that she believes that her armies are going to struggle so immensely that they would have to prepare provisions because she is afraid of total annihilation and wants her kingdom to fight to the last. Which, yeah, that is the most those actions alone very much characterize what kind of ruler she is.
Yeah, I mean it's because they've only got the castle and some vassals and around that area, and they've got the army of the entire empire against them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not a standing army in the modern sense necessarily, but still.
Well, yes, of course, it's not modern times, so
Yeah,
but still, it's pretty unique. It's pretty interesting. I also do like, of course, the detail of not everybody could get like the heraldry on their armor and such.
yeah. There's just wasn't the time to deal with all that. They needed to get because the chap who's leading the army is kind of a psychopath. Well, there are two people leading the army. One of them is not a psychopath. The other one is, but the one who is, unfortunately, is the one who's in charge.
Ouch. Well, Godspeed to them.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely setting up that this is going to be quite an interesting and quite intense fight. I am looking forward to seeing it.
I wonder how successful it will be. It's an action. Well, because I'm not really, action is not my strong point. So we'll see how that turns out. But I mean, of
I
course,
can help you with action. That seems to be the one thing that I'm good at.
well, we'll see when I read it. We'll see when I get around to reading it. We'll see how it comes off.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see
All
how
right.
it comes off.
Yep.
So I'm before I head off my walk. Anything, Blighty Lordy chap?
No, that pretty much summarized all I wanted to say. I thought it was a very good use of political intrigue and talking about specific logistics that need to be worried about, as well as the frustrations that often come with having to manage the peasantry in and the specific toils that they have to worry about.
Yeah,
And would, for lack of a better term, more moan about. Why
yeah.
aren't you treating us like them?
You can see their point of view, but
definitely. Oh, definitely, for sure.
It gives the impression of an actual siege that's about to happen.
Yeah. So later on, there will be some things happening later. So we'll see how those come off.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, no, I think this was the best story of the stories that were presented.
Oh, really? Wow, that's not bad.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Wissia's story was not very interesting to me, and then everybody still thinks that I'm a shitty writer, so, I mean, that leaves you by default to be the best.
Well, it does take a lot of
crappy,
work.
no, in growing.
Oh, that's right. You guys
Crappy,
did say
no,
it had improved.
You know, just out of curiosity, Noble, why didn't you find it interesting?
Because the action scene was really cool, and then you flip to doing like a boring like scene, but except and I thought that the present was supposed to be the action violence scene, but the action scene was actually the flashback, and I was confused, and I I don't know, I just didn't find like anybody else other than Rosa / Lucia to be
Wissia.
I didn't find. I don't know. Rosa was like the only character that I actually gave a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
And then just everyone else is just like really. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe it was just too far into the story for me to care about. I don't know, because like I don't like none of this was established to me.
Okay, to be fair, I probably should have gone with the blurb at the very beginning, explaining Wissia's situation, because there was a new guest on who wasn't familiar with how everything's been progressing so far. But that is more my fault, if anything.
It's okay. Most of these stories that I hear on Writer Showcase, I do find to be boring, mostly just because I don't know, whatever, like there, I remember, I don't know, there's just like...
You experienced a neural activation when you saw Rosa being a badass.
Yes.
Well, I have good news for you. This story is about Wissia becoming Rosa again.
Yes!
So there you go.
Yeah!
That's the good news for you. She does start off kind of like Rosa at the beginning of the story. So there you go.
Yes!
So that's the arc, is it?
Yeah, the arc is that we start off with a character who doesn't really have much of a sense of self, and then I put her through the ringer, tear her down into her fundamentals, and give her an opportunity to rebuild and reshape herself. Literally, a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Oh, it's kind of like the Captain Marvel movie if it was written by good writers.
Thank you very much, Noble.
That I feel like that was what the arc was supposed to be in Captain Marvel, where she's like, she used to be a badass, but then she kind of lost her memory and forgot who she was, and she kind of had to rediscover herself. Except the whole idea in like there wasn't really a reason for Captain Marvel in the movie. Like she wasn't like there wasn't any self-doubt within Captain Marvel or Carol Danvers. She was just kind of like, she just remembers, oh yeah, I used to be awesome, like, oh, I'm going to be super awesome and like a girl boss all over everyone, and then she does just girl boss over everyone and doesn't have to struggle through anything, and she's boring and she's a bitch and she's an asshole and I hate her.
Noble, calm down. We
Let's
know.
not
We've all seen that movie.
Noble.
We all know.
Nobody likes Captain Marvel except for stupid ideologues. Let's move on.
Yes.
I actually have not seen that movie, but that's fine.
I have. It was awful, and I regret watching it. I
For
only
me-
watched it just so I can have an opinion on it with my parents and my family and say, no, this movie is bad.
I mean, I'm already prejudiced against it because for me, Captain Marvel is a chap in a red suit with a yellow lightning bolt on it.
Hey, let's go! The OG Captain Marvel.
I like the one where
Billy
she
Batson.
is
Yeah.
wearing like the swimsuit outfit with the thigh highs. I like that one better.
That's Miss Marvel.
Oh.
Well, it's still Captain Marvel technically, since Carol Danvers. Like,
I thought that's the that version of Carol Danvers, like with that costume. Yeah, I like that one the best.
Oh
Probably-
God, that is one hell of a downgrade. Now that I think
Also-
about it.
For me, Captain Marvel is a chap.
Yep, good old Billy Batson, the OG, the real Captain Marvel.
Yeah, pretty much.
They sometimes refer to him as Captain Marvel.
Well,
in the
except they call him
animated stuff.
Shazam now for legal reasons. Even though
Yeah.
Captain Marvel, the Shazam Captain Marvel came first. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
dumb.
we know.
Weird.
It's okay.
It's kind of yeah. I don't know the details, but it's kind of stupid because Shazam is the wizard.
Yeah. Also, I want to note something else. They still call him Captain Marvel sometimes in the animated stuff. I find that hilarious. It's just a nice little fuck you to Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Mm.
So anyway, I probably better run off my walk.
All right.
But
Best
it's
of
been
luck.
real.
Yep. Likewise. Take
Yeah.
care of yourself, buddy.
Have a riot.
Thanks. You too.
How do I get you
Done.
down?
Are we going to have the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull stream? Because I would love to do that.
I will have to watch it.
Fuck
Oh,
yeah! Let
boy.
me know when you watch it, and then we could discuss a time.
Okay.
Dunn, did you want to present anything today?
Yes, I do. But I did want to answer Noble's question since he clearly seems interested in asking it. Yes, I will be happy to at some point in the future watch and do a stream on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Well,
I look forward to debating you.
I'm going to probably watch that and then go back to the original trilogy as a palate cleanser.
This should be a palate cleanser in and of itself to remind you that hey,
I never saw the fifth movie. Okay, I avoided it
I
like the
refuse
plague.
to watch this. Yeah, I
I've seen all the
refuse to watch-
reviews. It's oh my god, it's horrible.
The
I
EFAP
just-
breakdown was enough.
Agreed. I just listened to EFAP and just said, yeah, I'm not going to watch this. Touch the Dial of Destiny. It seems as though it's the same problems that everything else has. And
It's
Modern
literally just Star
media.
Wars. It's literally just The Force Awakens all over again, except worse.
yeah. Okay, fine. I'll watch it with Trip, and then I can make fun of it as we go, especially the nuking the fridge bit.
All right, I
Avoid
will
me
admit
to that
that
watch
is
party.
dumb. It's stupid, but the movie isn't bad.
It's at the very best painfully average with some really bad CGI and some.
So, the Monty Python and the Holy Grail has like terrible special effects. Yeah, everybody loves that movie.
Because that's the joke.
Okay,
It's a low budget. It's a low
all right,
budget
Starship
comedy
Troopers.
film.
Then everybody loves Starship Troopers, but the special effects are horribly dated. Same with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Again, the special effects are awful, but people love those movies.
Okay, you know what?
I actually don't like the Raimi Spider-Man movies. I think they're mech cartoons.
Damn,
Wow.
bruh, that was my childhood right there.
It was
Wow.
mine too.
Wow, just I feel like well, we'll save it. You know what? Let's just save these debates for the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull video or the stream. Anyway, let us hear what Dunn wants to read so that we can.
Okay, let's just establish this right now. You do not give him permission; he gives you permission.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Right. I'm sorry. Done. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Anyway,
Okay.
I'll shut up now.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, in terms of the summary of what has happened so far, okay, so we're actually nearing the very end. There's only about 27 more pages on the book, the second Dragonstrife. The main thing that happened was one of the characters finally gets to have an apotheosis where she and her dragon ascend into a much more powerful form so that they can actually be able to handle fighting her aunt, who had up to this point had a much larger dragon. But now they're figuring out how to, they now have a means for which to challenge her. Now they're preparing for war. However, while that is going on, her fist, or right-hand man, is worrying about other things that he believes are actually crucial, since he doesn't believe the rumors of a Dragonlord in the north. One of them being the fact that he has somebody who is trying to get into, who has been seemingly trying to get to him. He believes is trying to get to him through by trying to seduce him, but isn't terribly interested and has been avoiding her for years. But that's the main summary up to this point. All right, chapter 23, A Stack of Letters. Shard quite liked working in the Fist's apartments. They were well lit, but high enough off the ground that he didn't have to worry about being spied upon. He looked over the assembled evidence he'd fabricated and carefully compared it with the letters he'd received. He'd always been good at utilizing his hands, either for drawing or handwriting, but he'd still had to work precisely to create this particular handwriting. His target had carefully worked to make her handwriting unique, each letter formed just slightly differently, but still of a uniform size and of a style that fit the rest of the letter. It was also rather difficult because she used ciphers. He'd intercepted a few of her communications, and it had been rather challenging to replicate her handwriting, but in the end, he'd figured out her patterns. Spinning his quill through his gloved fingers, Shard put the finishing touches on his letters and set them aside so he could sprinkle sand on them to dry the ink faster. Once they were dry enough that they would not smudge, he locked them in a special drawer he'd built into the underside of his desk. Resting his chin on his fist, Shard glanced out the window at the city that spread out to the mountains surrounding it. At last he would have his vengeance. Shardy boy! Shard's grip on the arm of his chair tightened slightly, but he was able to prevent himself from being shamed for the jump. Netriana, he said coldly, what brings you to my office? I missed chatting with you, Shardy boy. Netriana glided over the desk, leaning against the corner and fixing her beady green eyes on him. You've been avoiding me. I'm not sure how to take it. We used to be such good friends. We made a few trade transactions over the years, most of which were not done in person. Shard narrowed his colorless eyes at her and slid his chair backward. If he was alone in this room with this snake of a woman, he would prefer not to be trapped with his legs under the desk. I wouldn't say that we are friends. Pedantry, pedantry, pedantry. Netriana reached her hand toward his shoulder, but he stood up and took the hand so he could lightly kiss it. Her eyes narrowed. Such a tease you are. I find you utterly repulsive. Shard tasted on a smile. I'm married, Netriana. Well, I've already sampled your wife, so why not have the full set? Netriana asked, putting on a flirtatious grin. Come on, Shardy boy. You can't say you haven't imagined it. I'm going to kill you. I hardly think that would be appropriate. Shard motioned her to take the seat. Eat in front of the desk, which she accepted with a slight twist of her mouth. There is a reason why I asked to meet. There have been troubling reports of treason in your lands. I wish to put an end to them. Treason? Natriana seemed to be feigning shock, but her tone was too theatrical, and the way she put her hand over her heart was too dramatic. Clearly, she was mocking him. Perish the thought, I am the most loyal of our beloved Dragonlord subjects. Good, Shard tilted his head, then you will be happy to search out traitors. It will be done. She extended her hand, palm up. So, what shall I receive from my undying devotion to our great monarch? She's aware that Chimera is an unstable wreck, but she's still grasping for whatever she can get her hands on. 1 month of taxes on canal unit usage removed per traitor bought to the Dragonlord for sentencing. Shard tilted his head. We will then record what your totals are and ensure that your ships receive the requisite document. I was thinking something more personal and pleasurable, Shardy boy. Natriana tilted his head. Sorry. You'd have to kill most of the known world in order to afford the price of prostituting myself, Shard said mildly. I know the reason behind your blandishments. You want me to get you pregnant so you can have a claim on my kingdom. Unfortunately, even if I were to do that, my son would get it. My holdings. So cynical, Shardy boy. Natriana stood up and opened her dress. I just want to have some fun with you. Shard's mind froze for a moment, exactly like when he disassociated while she'd been defiling his wife. Forcing himself to focus, Shard casually examined her rather appealing body, then looked up at her eyes. I'm fully capable of calling the guards and removing you. I imagine you would rather not put your body on display for someone who can't benefit you. Natriana narrowed her eyes and closed her dress. So, still as British as ever, she sighed. I am loyal to my wife and her only, Shard said flatly. My reputation hinges on that fact. I'm a man of integrity, mostly. You and I are well aware that you are a cold-hearted snake underneath that proper exterior. Natriana's smirk made Shard very much want to throw her out the window. You don't care about loyalty or honor. You just care about them in so much as they prop you up. She has a point. Whatever my motives, spoken or unspoken, I do care very deeply for my wife, and I do wish to ensure that I keep all the promises I made to her. We are two of a kind, Shard. Natriana leaned forward. We both have great ambitions. We both wish to accomplish great things. Ally with me more fully. Give me a child with your blood to cement our pact, and we will ensure the continued growth of both our kingdoms. I hate you. I can accept an alliance, but you will not receive a child from me. He interlaced his gloved fingers. We are neighbors, after all. Natriana shook her head and waved a finger at him. I want to trust you, Shardy boy, but I'm going to need assurances. She grinned. Assurances that I can count on. Shall I have to in order to get my revenge? He quickly squashed that thought and put on a smile. Well, there's very little that I can do for you then. You're at an impasse. No, you need to bend your so-called principles and beg me to show your commitment, Natriana corrected. Well, then I expect we'll have to spend some time haggling over that. Shard stood up and walked to the door. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to be about. One day, Shardy boy, Natriana sighed, you'll bend and it'll feel delicious. You will die before that happens. Perhaps, but you're a patient woman. You raised an eyebrow. I'm actually not that patient, but I suppose for eyes such as you, I can have a bit more patience. Natriana walked through the door and seemed about to try and kiss Shard, but then she saw other guards and his gloved fist against his chest. She demurred. I look forward to chatting again. Shard closed the door behind her and sat down on his desk, letting himself shake with repressed fury. I hate her, he seethed. I hate her, I hate her, I hate her. That last sounded very much like a wolf's growl. Finally, he managed to get control over himself and forced his fist to unclench. He needed to put his plan into motion now. A dark cloak covering her new horns, Persephone stood in the center of a large open-roofed gathering hall, the orcs and humans filling in with their families to hear her speech. Once everyone was assembled, Persephone stepped forward and extended her arm. Today is the day you've been preparing for these past 10 years, she declared, the natural acoustics of the building carrying her words around throughout the arena. Today, we march to take back what is rightfully ours. Like hounds smelling blood, the orcs thrust their shields and swords into the air and roared, the humans joining in. Your patience has been tested over the past decade, Persephone called, and now it shall be rewarded. She raised her new weapon and ignited the blade. Immediately, the tip flicked open at the crossguard, the large T-shaped blade seeming to purr as she shoved it into the ground. Placing her gauntleted hands on the skull-shaped pommel. I have been purified and refined into a new being, granted great power and a new weapon to bring down the tyrant who's forced us from our lands and homes. With a single motion, she threw back her hood, revealing the horns that now grew from her head. The crowd gasped, eyes fixed on Persephone. Will you follow me to victory? She called. We are with you. The orcs began bashing their weapons against their shields. Shard carefully set his seal to the letter to his eyes and ears in the north where the dragon had been seen. He'd promised he would send word, and he had every intention of gathering information, but his suspicion was that this was nothing more than a wild dragon. A knock at the door made him turn sharply, wondering which lord might be calling on him. Lord Fist, this just arrived. He proffered the letter, which Shard accepted without betraying how eager he was to open it. The seal on the letter was a sign from Lord Arsteros out in the outskirts of Numenor. A Battern Lord is tasked with keeping watch over Cardolan. He cracked the seal and narrowed his eyes at the contents. My Lord Fist, an army of orcs and humans has come out of Cardolan and is moving south rapidly. They've gathered heavy reinforcements from the deep lines and are marching toward Camelane. They have a massive orange and black dragon at their midst, and they fly the banner with a woman's face with twisted horns. They've crushed the army that was sent to destroy them, and we are hard pressed. Please send aid. Tell the Dragonlord that I need to speak to her. Shard rapped out to the young messenger. It appears as though a secret army has made itself known, and an opportunity made manifest to him. Persephone landed at Cerberus atop the summit of Morgul Castle in the center of Camelane. The enormous mountain of a fortress was ancient, even older than Minan Drakkar, though not as old as the mountain fortress she'd been hiding out in. The young Lord Ardorelius, son of the previous Lord of Numenor, was waiting for at the top along with his wife. Both of them were relatively young, only 19, but it had only been 2 years that they've been given and Chimera's permission to rule in exchange for their oath not to rise up in rebellion due to the death of Aurelius, his father. I'm glad you arrived so soon, Aurelius bowed. It seems though Cerberus has grown. He trailed off when he saw Persephone's horns. What is that? He asked, pointing at her skull. Is this some kind of affliction? No, it is not. Persephone. He flicked the horns, causing both Aurelius and his wife to flinch. The army has moved out to a sufficient distance? Yes, the enemy believes that we are hard-pressed and require aid. His wife, Persephone vaguely remembered her name was Ayla, put in quickly, though she looked at the horns with a strained expression on her face. They'll be joining with your troops within days. Good. Chimera will move toward us soon. Likely she'll position us here, or he can ambush her and her daughters. Persephone ran her hand over her sleeve where she'd placed her new weapon. At last we will finally be able to throw down the tyrant who's been oppressing us these 10 years. Aurelius pressed his fist into his palm. my father will be avenged. And that's where we'll stop.
Holy shit! That was the new best story. Oh my god, dude. Wait, is it Tatra or Catra?
Natriana.
The chick that was hitting on Shard?
Her name is Natriana, yep.
Natriana. Okay, yeah, Natriana. Dude, she was like hitting on him, and then he's like fucking Sigma male, slap that bitch down, like, fuck you. And then, and then there was the scene where this fucking like demon lady or whatever is like has like this army and she's like giving her fucking Hitler speech to the fucking orcs. And I was like, oh man, this shit's getting real. And I was like, I still had no context because I didn't quite understand what you were saying about like the recap. I was like, okay. But then I was like, when you were telling the story, it's like, all right, there's like, because there's like, it's just a bunch of like your recap was a bunch of fantasy like techno babble or whatever. That's just all I understood is fantasy techno babble. Dragonlord this, Dragonlord that, blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm confused. And then it's like, okay, the actual story is fucking awesome. And I was like, apparently I don't need the recap if the story is just this awesome. Wissia, take notes. This is how you make awesome sauce happen. You just do it. You just.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliments.
Oh my god, this is just so great and so awesome.
Anyway, thank you very much for that, Noble. So anyway, I wanted to just go and give some of my thoughts for that chapter. First off, I very much liked that interaction at the very beginning. I was a little confused as to which dialogue mapped onto where with Shard, but I picked up on it pretty quickly when in one sentence he's saying how much he hates a person, and the other he's being extremely polite to them. That's maybe hold on for a second.
But yeah, it's one of Shard's the things I enjoyed writing about Shard is that he thinks one thing and says something completely different, and usually that's way more blunt than what he actually says.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting dynamic, and makes reading his dialogue very fun. Of course, it serves very well to characterize him as somebody who is who has very simple and baseline emotions, but is capable of taming the beast, for lack of better terms. Let's see. I think the jumping around was a little jarring, but I was able to follow along quite well with you introducing the scene with a new POV character.
I do need to get going. My dad has to go. But I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Thank you for having me on stream.
All right. Bye.
Enough.